Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the town board meeting for April 23rd, 2025 to order at roughly 6:30 p.m. As always, we are running remote and virtual. We run our meetings with a Zoom so that folks can participate remotely. If you are interested, you can find the instructions at the top of each of our agendas, and we're also live streaming to Facebook and to YouTube. So next up, I would like to ask Councilor Italiano to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so first up, for open podium, Scarlett Davidson.
Hello. Didn't want to be here today, but I'm here today to report a concern. I spoke with Mr. Deere about it this morning, so he's aware. Apparently this is not the first time, but I just wanted you all to be aware, have another voice of the same situation, and the public to be aware should they experience similar behavior. So back in January, I learned how to use the online tax assessment apps for the first time. I mean, you know, getting down deep. And I was trying to compare my property to my neighbors, my immediate neighbors. And it looked like there was a severe disparity between mine and my immediate neighbors. So rather than freak out, I thought, take a step back. Let's go talk to the assessor. I did read the website and informal conversations were allowed. And so that was what I tried to seek. And I'm unavailable Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days. And so I gave them a window of Fridays, anytime. When I approached the office about making an appointment, they said they can't do that, that he makes his own time and that he would get back to me. And I said, well, do we know when we'll get back to me, you know, because otherwise I'm not available till next Friday, that kind of stuff. And everything was just the minimum conversation, avoiding and sorry, we can't answer that, all that kind of stuff. So in the end, it took me a month and a half to get an appointment with him. And I was putting in a request basically weekly. And sometimes I called in and sometimes I showed up in person. And it got to a point where I was actually asking for a receipt for my presence at the office. That's pretty sad. Anyway, after a month and a half, he did take me in for an appointment and it was a pleasant conversation, respectful. He showed me a lot of things about my assessment value and how they compute it and all of that. He showed me some new things like about the wetland maps and such that were relevant. However, whenever I asked him back to my original question with my immediate neighbors, he always said, let me show you one more thing. And so we never got to about how this fits with my immediate neighbors. How do I know it's fair? I want to have trust in our system. So then I felt like, okay, the hour ended. We'll just have a part two. Part two, now that we got the background covered. And in the end, 3 weeks later, you know, again, weekly request for an appointment. 3 weeks later, he said he received my paperwork, but it would take some time to review it and get back to me. Another 3 weeks and he still hadn't got back to me. So last week, finally, I had to say, if I don't hear from you by the end of this week, I'm going to the board. And he did call back that day. But he basically turned the whole conversation into that I can't answer that question. Various reasons. And I'm like, I don't care about the 2025 information because he kept trying to say it's not out yet, it's not public. I said, well, we can talk about the 2024, which is public. And I just want confidence. So basically, the comparables he showed me were in another neighborhood 5 miles away from my home. And when I tried to ask for the immediate neighbors, he said, well, that's your economic neighborhood. Anyway, so I've got no information from him. Mr. Deere looked at it with me this morning and said it looks like there would be something for grievance here. But I was trying to avoid the grievance. I was trying to not fill up the system. That's a rushed process. It's a very short time window. And so I'm really disheartened with how I was treated here. And, you know, even though he was respectful to me in conversation, the staff was not. When I asked if he's available today, they wouldn't even look up anything. They'd just say he's not available today. And I said, is he in today? And they would just sometimes glare at me and then look at the other staff in the office. That's very disrespectful behavior. So anyway, I'm here to let you know that this is what I experienced. And I certainly hope that there's something that you all can do about it. Mr. Deere said his hands are sort of tied with the current situation. He's heard about it before. So I understand an appointment is coming up in October. Hopefully you can make a change by then or for then. I'm asking with the new situation when it comes about that there can be some slots guaranteed for constituents to have a timely meeting. You know, this would foster so much goodwill and, you know, peace and trust in our system. Because I feel like if the algorithms and the procedures are all in line, basically we could pull up 2024 information and it should be relatively fair. And it shouldn't be gaping holes. If I'm misunderstanding, he should have confidence in himself to bring up those numbers and show me how they make sense. And he did not do that. So all this dragging on could have been taken care of in the first week if he accepted an appointment and if we discussed my exact question. So that's it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for bringing this to us.
Thanks for coming.
I'm sorry it happened.
Well, yeah, and it was over and over, you know, my time is precious like everyone else's, and I was not feeling very valued.
Right.
And I know times are busy right now, but I was trying to avoid that. That's why I took it up in January.
I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. It's embarrassing for us to hear. Who's the liaison to assessments?
Wanted to ask a question. I want to make sure I got your, if you don't mind. What is
Sure.
your last name again?
Davidson,
Davidson. Thank you.
Scarlett Davidson.
Thank you, Mrs. Davidson.
Thank you for taking the time to come down.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening.
Next up, we've got Craig Dutzak.
I sent you a letter. Maybe you read it.
2 lemons. 2
I
lemons.
hope so.
I could hear you as I was reading it.
Well, you can follow along with the bouncing ball. So this is in regard to Census Gatso, which was a presentation you had last week. Ian Gregg was the presenter, and he talked about establishing automated speed enforcement zones adjacent to schools in the town of Manlius. I'll go off the script for a second. The idea of having traffic enforcement outside our schools is certainly a good idea. The questions that I raise have to do partly with logistics and partly with the idea of using a private for-profit source for doing so. So the questions I had are, what's the legal basis by which a private entity enforces traffic laws? Obviously, from the map he showed, there were places in New York that had established something. I don't know if it's the exact same thing as proposing here. But it struck me as strange that you could delegate essentially a police function to a non-police agency. So there's that part of it. And then collecting fines. And I'm not even sure it's appropriate to call them fines because by definition, a fine is something that a public entity would enforce against a person. I don't know what you call it, a fee, you know, thanks for watching. The second question logistically has to do with school zones being in the town of Manlius. In other words, there are schools both in the FM district, the ESM district, IC, and not all of them may fall within the town's purview. I don't know where the boundaries are. In briefly chatting with Mark Knapp last week, I guess there's some issues, or at least some boundary issues. I know when we're talking about the sidewalks, part of the problem of even where you located the sidewalks had to do with what was in the town and what was in the village. So it seems to me that that's something in due diligence you would certainly be aware of. I assume you'd want to consult the schools. I can't imagine they'd be opposed to it, but I think appropriately we would do so. So then we get to the heart of things. It has to do with the fee collection. The census gets to retain all the revenues collected. There's nothing said directly about where the money goes. So if they're creating it, I assume he applied that, you know, therefore we're gonna cover all the expenses, we're gonna do all the maintenance, do all the calculating, whatever. So we get to keep the money, but it does seem to impose costs on the town. And I made reference to two specific areas that stood out, and there may be others.
So I'll just say that they don't keep the whole fee, they keep a portion of it, and then the rest will come back to the town.
And what is that percentage wise?
I vaguely remember being around 40% of the fee.
Okay, again, wasn't the presentation. So who in the town provides the local review? Police department? Is it someone in, you know, the office of the town? And what does that mean? You're really going 10 miles over the limit, I mean. And then obviously there's a court function. And again, that imposes costs, expenses to the town. And then there's the question of, well, what happens if, you know, hypothetically a driver gets one of these notices, gets the follow-up letter, and says, oh, what the hell, who are these people? I'm not doing anything. So where does the enforcement of this fall upon? Does it require a police action? Does it require, again, some civil action? And if there's a civil action, again, there's both a cost element, and then what do you do if a person says, well, I refuse to pay the fine? Because, you know, how do you, there's no police, right? Nobody who's testifying against me. Here's a picture. Well, I wasn't trapped, whatever the case may be. So there's an enforcement element that also is required. So there's a philosophical argument, I made it towards the end. I don't like the idea of having governmental or police functions privatized. And the obvious examples, and sometimes the most egregious bad examples, are in the use of private prisons, which we've contracted out. And it also includes what we might call privatized corrections officers, who again aren't employees of the state, where it creates a gray area as to where responsibilities fall. And I think then further, you know, I was wondering last time if, you know, someone raised the question, I remember Chief said something about, well, you know, the police aren't enforcing this. I'm misstating you, please tell me otherwise. Right, if someone concurrently got a ticket for a traffic violation, that would be police enforceable, but this isn't. And so then, like I say, the philosophical question is, how does a private entity start and have the authority of bringing actions against private citizens? So I know there are examples, we've all seen them, of where you can get a ticket for driving through a municipal area where you go through a stoplight or you go through, you know, exceed speeds, and that's common. So why would we delegate this function outside of what would be available presumably for the town to do with similar kinds of apparatus? And, you know, Census Gazzo isn't doing this out of their civic duty. This is a moneymaker for them. They're not doing it because they're losing money in doing these things. Obviously, they've done it before efficiently, effectively. So then the question is, if we really want to enforce the traffic safety around our schools, would this be something that we might better consider? I'm not advocating for it, but I at least put that on the record.
Thank you. And just so everybody knows, I will be forwarding that letter off to get some interest on those projects.
I know, but I signed this one.
Definitely take the one with your signature, might be famous someday, right?
Yeah, that was my baseball card.
Okay, so moving on to the next item on the agenda. Oh,
Yeah,
anyone here for
Dylan.
open podium?
Yeah, there's.
Dylan's-
Oh, yeah, you want to promote Dylan? Promotion.
Hello?
Hi,
We can
Dylan.
hear ya.
Hey, what's up? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I had my hand up. My bad.
Okay, so seeing no more comments from the podium, we do have a public hearing on the agenda. This is for the bond resolution for the highway department additions and renovations. And before we open up that public hearing, we're gonna have Bob Saget here do a little presentation for us, kind of bring everybody up to speed. And so that anybody here who is here to make a comment can do it from a better informed place.
So, come on. So Bob Seger is the architect with Shop for Architects, who has been working with us for a couple of years now to get ourselves ready for this project. And he's going to give us a little presentation to bring everybody up to the same level of understanding.
Okay, if I stand here, or I
Yeah.
feel like I'm in everybody's way.
You're talking to that microphone right now.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like I wanna.
We can see just fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Until we are successfully have a new building, it is what it is. We apologize.
Excellent. Okay. Let's see if this works. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna start out with the existing building, existing site. It's about 12.4 acres. It was first developed in 1985 when the main building was built. Which is a 30,000 square foot pre-engineered building. It's done obviously in 85, so it's 40 years old. And it's connected to a couple of leach fields, which are pretty important, and we're not touching with this. It's got concrete block walls all the way around the perimeter, just inside the metal siding. And I mention that because they're filled with vermiculite, which was used as an insulator, but it contains asbestos. It's considered asbestos, even though it's less than 1%. In other materials, it would not be considered asbestos, but the Department of Labor has decided that all vermiculite is asbestos containing material. And so when we penetrate that, when we make holes in that, we have to do it under abatement conditions, that's part of this project. We have the salt storage shed, which everybody can see from a distance, 6,300 square feet. It was done in 2008 and recently recovered. So that's in good shape. The emergency generator, which was installed in 98, which I mentioned because we're going to talk about replacement, and the oil water separator, which was done a couple of years ago. And when that was done, we had already anticipated that we would have a maintenance addition. And so there's a T that was installed there. Rob made sure of it. So it will accommodate the maintenance addition. So we have to dig a little bit, but it's there. So this is the proposed site plan. And so main garage, this is the 30,000 square feet here. The salt storage shed, this is the vehicle storage building that we'll talk about in a little bit, that was just done last year. The two leach fields that are there right now that we're not touching, the proposed maintenance addition, the proposed office and locker room addition, and then inside of that, in the existing building, the break room and training room renovation, and then the foreman office and growth renovation just above that. And just a little spot right here, that's where the new generator's going, which the highway department already has. It's going to be installed in this project though. So this was last year's project, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Vehicle storage building, 4,800 square feet. It's a simple 3-bay pole barn. As soon as that was done in November, Rob was already storing vehicles and equipment in there that are normally stored outside during the winter. Now they're protected. They're gonna last longer and work better in there. It has electricity, so it has light and power, but no heat. And then off the side of it, the north side, it has covered storage, about 6,400 square feet. And then just a quick view inside. May or may not be more full right now, I don't know, but there's a lot of equipment in there. I was in there over the winter, it was packed full. So then I wanted to go over a little bit some of the reasons for why it was decided to do these additions and renovation. So first of all, the parts and maintenance area. Vehicle maintenance is just, it takes up about 3 bays in the garage, bays that are supposed to be used for trucks, but obviously they're used for maintenance. And so they don't have a pit, they don't have a lift. Mechanics, if they're gonna work under a vehicle, they're lying on their backs on the floor. It's cold, it's hard, it's concrete, it is pretty rough in a lot of areas. And then the parts area, again, that takes up about 1.5 bays of area that, again, should be used for vehicle storage, but is not. And, you know, in addition to that, obviously, both areas are wide open to the rest of the garage. So every time the overhead doors open, cold air comes in, or the hot air, but it's not a comfortable situation. And the lighting isn't that great either. Okay, so this is the proposed addition. It's about 8,100 square feet. It's primarily the let's go back. So the basic rectangle is a pre-engineered metal building. So it's a most efficient, cost-effective way to do this big space. And then there's a little connecting link to the existing building, to the main garage. And what we have here is we have 3 new bays, wide bays, so that they don't necessarily have to take the wings off the trucks. We wanted, I mean, it's nice if you're not working on those, it's nice not to have to take them off. 20-foot wide doors, 16-foot high. I think the bays are like 26 feet on center. So plenty of space for service and for fabrication. And over top of this area here is a 10-ton or 5-ton bridge crate, so that they can use that to lift up the vehicles or take the boxes off, and just, you know, whatever they need to do. In addition, we've got dedicated space for them. So they're able to control the climate a little bit better. It's got new ventilation required by code, but it's also got radiant heat in the slab. So lying down on the slab, when you do have to do it, which they will still have to do, it's gonna be a little bit more comfortable now. The 4th bay of the garage is parts with parts storage and parts office, which is a little bit of a step up for Bill. But he can use it. If you've seen the area that he works in there, trying to do paperwork on his desk there, it's not very professional. So this helps a lot. And it opens up 4.5 bays of space in the garage for future vehicles, because the town's growing, Rob's trying to do more, and eventually there'll be more vehicles there. We set this up so that the finished floor elevation here is the same as the garage. So as they're taking parts, tires, whatever, back and forth, it's pretty easy to do. So the locker room's an office space. Basically, the men's locker room is too small. They've outgrown it. The women's locker room is non-existent. So we have those problems to deal with. The superintendent's office is really way too small. There's no conference room, there's no meeting room space there. And there's also at the entrance, if you think about employees going in and out is fine, but for the public, visitors, it's really not much of an entrance. It's a little bit confusing. There's no one there to greet you. You just kind of wander into Rob's office and bother him. That was part of our charge when we looked at this. So, first off, we have the bathroom area over here. So we've got the men's room with 30 lockers. We've got the women's room with 7 lockers and space for more. We've got a reception area, so the highway secretary can come over from the foreman's office and be here. The superintendent's office and a conference room here. So this is you can see that the configuration is a little peculiar. It's partly because we want to connect to the building right here where it connects right now, where the main door is right now. We're gonna make that wider, but still we want to keep that location. It's less disruptive to the rest of the building. We also have a lot of utilities. The mechanical room, the existing mechanical room is right here, and the utilities come in and then they come over at an angle. And so we designed this to miss them. So that. Now the break room and training room. So the break room is too small. The training room is not really appropriate for training. I mean, it was designed as the original maintenance area, but it's too small. It was always too small. I don't think it was ever used for maintenance, because you can't get a truck into there. So anyway, so they do training in there, but it's not, you can see it, they use it for vehicle storage and other work, but it's not really appropriate for training. So our plan on this is to, once we do the renovation, once we do the addition, the office, the locker room addition, then we can take down the bathroom, the bathrooms, which are in this area, and Rob's office over here, and essentially about double that break room space. And put in new cabinets and appliances, dress that up a little bit, and make that into, it is a little bit of an odd size space here, but it works. It gives us enough space for all the employees. And then we're taking this bay here. We're using some of it for storage, for file storage, for secure storage, for office, for training, and for the break room. And segregate this to make it into a training room where people can concentrate on what they're being trained in. So that's that. Then there's the foreman's office, which currently is this size here. And so we're gonna add on, bless you, the vault. We're gonna take the old vault, we're gonna break into there and just about double the size of the foreman space. And kind of dress that up a little bit. Add a couple more windows in here, so it's more like nice office space. So there'll be room for the 3 foremen in there and some room for growth. So some of the challenges we have are flood mitigation. We are in a special flood hazard zone here, which puts some additional burdens on it. Basically, what we know is we know that the base flood elevation is 412.5. The DEC and FEMA require that if you're going to build in here, you need to be above that, at least 2 feet above that, which means 414.5. So that's 18 inches above the existing garage floor. That's what's required, unless you're going to do a wet floodproofing, okay? So, there's a few things to consider when you're talking about floodproofing. We're kind of in the middle of this. So the first thing, what we did for the vehicle storage building is we set that elevation about 412.5. Okay? It's higher than what the elevation was out there previously, but not so high that it made it difficult to get vehicles in and out because it's not paved. None of it's paved around there. So you don't want to get it too steep. So we brought it up as high as we could. And what we did was called wet floodproofing. So we put these 12 little floodgates, if you will, these flood vents. They're in the side, there's 6 on each side of the building. And they're made so if the area floods, the water gets up to that level, which is, they're pretty close to I'll say the finished floor elevation, the gravel. So if the water gets up to there, these floodgates open and it lets the water flow in and out. So it doesn't prevent water getting in, it prevents it from damaging the building. And because the building, because it's wood and metal, it's allowed to do that. So that was the obvious choice for this. There's no way we're gonna get this elevation, this finished floor elevation up another 2 feet. It wasn't practical. So we have a different solution. We have a different solution for all 3 things here. So this is also wet floodproofing for the maintenance building. So the maintenance building is, we have block walls up about 8 feet, very similar to the existing maintenance building, and it's pre-engineered building, so it's similar in that, but this has a little bit more height to it. What we were allowed to do here, because again, the block, it's a fairly special block. It's all reinforced and it's grounded solid. And so that does a pretty good job of keeping the water out of the building. The other thing that we did with this was we put in this aluminum plank system, which allows us to do that. And we talk about gravel a lot. I mean, the area has never flooded up this high before, okay? However, it has flooded around the edges of the parking lot. So we know that that's possible. And the reason behind the DEC and FEMA saying you need to put your finished floor level up 2 feet above that is because they're anticipating more storms, higher flooding levels. And nobody really knows where we're going to be in 20 years, but hopefully we won't be worried about that. But for this building, as I said before, we set the elevation as the same elevation as the existing garage. It just functionally makes a lot more sense. So what we did is there's this plank system, which is part of the project. And what you do is at the jambs of the doorways, of the overhead doors as well as the man doors, they have these channels that receive these planks. So we're actually, for us, we only have to go up 3 planks high. We just have to get up 2 feet. So that's the system. It works pretty well. It doesn't keep all the water out of the building, but the intention is that you'll have less than 4 inches of water in the building with a system like this. And what we've seen, it does a pretty good job of that. So that's the system we have. So there's 7 doorways, including the doorway into the garage, because if the garage floods, this area won't. We keep all the utilities up at least 2 feet high, higher than the finished floor. And that's the basic requirements behind the wet floodproofing for this. So for the office area and locker rooms, different approach, okay? This building has metal stud work on the inside, drywall, new finished floors, as you might expect for an office area and bathroom. So in areas that you don't want to get flooded, certainly, I mean, bathrooms are made to get wet, but not like that. So what we did here was we set this elevation up at 414.5. So it's 1.5 feet above the garage level. and it's 2 feet above the base flood elevation. So that protects us. Now, to do that, what we did was, the parking lot is new, so we're rebuilding the parking lot, kind of reconfiguring that. It's more or less in the same place that it is now, but it is really reconfigured, and it's brought up so that we start a little higher over towards the fence, and we bring it up so that by the time we're here, I'll say at the entrance, we're already pretty high. We're already at 414 at this point. So we go up a 6-inch ramp here, and you're at 414.5. All of this area is at that elevation, and then there's a ramp down. It's a 2-piece ramp here to get down the 18 inches to the garage. So it's a little bit of an inconvenience, but for this type of construction, you don't want this getting wet, so we just dry flood proof it. So just to kind of summarize where we are with this. All the additions are going to be fully accessible. They're well insulated, and all the new mechanical equipment is very energy efficient. The parts and maintenance has new dedicated space that's climate controlled. The offices, break room, locker room are all larger, and I think have the appropriate type of space that they should have. They're all backed up by the new generator, which will go right there. And again, that gives us, 4+ bays in the garage that we don't have right now available to us. So the building appearance, we've talked about this a little bit before. What we did, the existing building has a tan vertical metal siding. It's not very exciting, and there's not much we're going to do with it, cost effectively. You could paint the whole thing, and then we've got a maintenance issue of we got to keep painting it. So it's not bad. So what we did with the new buildings is we picked a tan siding, a couple different sidings that are complementary to this. It's not an exact match, but I think for most people looking at it, it looks like it matches. And then we used green metal roofs, standing seam metal roofs, and trim on this to be consistent with the vehicle storage building that we did last year. So that kind of set the tone for the siding color. And of course, we've got siding coming from different companies. We're going to try to match it, but they all seem to have this tan color that is pretty close to what we have right now. So I think that works. And then we've got a little bit. We added a rain garden in here and landscaping around the office locker room addition. So that brought us to a couple things. First of all, in January, after a month or so of investigation and interviews, we hired a construction manager, CHA, and they are in the middle of things right now. And so we hired them. They gave us they had a little bit of time to get their feet wet, not in the special flood zone. And so we went out to bid. And so what I'm listing here is the trades. These are the contractors that we've got on board right now. The number of bidders who bid those components, and the contract amounts, and then the total down here, which is you've probably seen this on the bid tab forms previously, but that's how it all breaks out. And just as an aside, we had to we had 2 bids on this. We bid it out and we didn't get any plumbing bids on the first go around, and we only got 1 fire protection bid. So we bid it out again, and we got, and this is after we called and talked to, probably at least 8 contractors for each trade. We still got 1 fire protection bid from the same company as the first time, and it was exactly the same. It didn't change. So I guess there's nothing lost there. That's the low bid. So we said, yes, take it. We did get 2 plumbing bids, Postal and Jaco were low, so anyways. So that's what we did through, I'll say January, February into March, getting that. We have the contracts in place, I think, for all of them, with the exception of the fire protection contractor who's, a little prickly right now. But we're working through that. We're through most of the issues with him. I think he just doesn't understand AAA contracts. It's, trying to teach him. I put together this preliminary construction schedule. Don't hold me to these numbers. They're still, I mean, we had a meeting today, and they're just starting to put together the numbers, but these are the targets that we've talked about. So, they started site work this week. The foundations will be mid-May. The superstructure for the additions will come along, that should start by July. They'll start the office locker room addition superstructure before the pre-engineered building, because the pre-engineered building comes as a package. And so they'll do the foundation and then it'll sit there and they'll wait. The superstructure again, that gets completed around the middle of August, and they'll start to build out of the buildings inside. So that's the shell is done, and they're starting the inside work, both general construction and all the trades. The additions should be complete about mid-October. The site work should finish up November-ish. It depends on weather and it depends on a lot of things, but it should finish up about that. The renovation work inside the building, they can't really get into that until they've done the additions. So that will start later, as I said here, mid-October. So mid-November, so they should be substantially complete with that. And then we've got punch list and commissioning scheduled for January, and then full occupancy. So the idea here is for Rob and to move into the office addition as soon as that's available, and for the maintenance and parts to move into that addition as soon as that's available, so they have the space inside to work. So that's my spiel.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
So are you suggesting that I not side my house with that tan?
No,
I gotta redo my house this summer and I was leaning towards a very flat tan, so.
Yeah, no, it's a fine color. Just depends on what you do with it. If your house is 30,000 square feet of space and 20 foot high.
It is, as a matter of fact.
That might be a little much, but no, it's that's just a fact of life. Though, if there's going to be some color, whatever color it was, thank goodness it's a color that we could work with.
Yeah. No, this was great. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to see that the timeline would be somewhat expedient. Like we're not waiting 2 years to be done with this. It feels like everything we do takes 2 years. So.
Yeah, it's everybody's on board with it. As I said, they're working out the schedule. That's probably going to take a couple more weeks to really define that well. But these are those are overall the numbers that the construction manager set forth, feels reasonable for the project. And, frankly, for the contractors, the sooner they get done, the sooner they make their money. So dragging it out doesn't work for anybody. So our goal here is to keep everybody working and efficient.
Great. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions?
Appreciate it.
Yep.
So I can make a motion to waive the reading,
All those in favor?
make a motion to open the public hearing.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion carries. So who is here to make a comment for the public hearing? Come on up. And if you're joining us via Zoom, please use the raise hand function so we know to put you in the queue.
Hello, Matthew Benton, Tommy on this. So I don't have comments, I have more just questions about the bonding and the payments on this. So I'll ask them, hopefully you guys have answers. If not, I appreciate some answers post meeting. So the first one is the bond resolution is for up to 5 million. As we saw just now in this presentation, thanks for the details, is that it's about 4.4 planned. But I also know last year during discussions, there was talk of rolling previous things like the maintenance addition or the vehicle addition possibly into the bond. So do we have a good idea of what we're actually bonding for as far as the final amount? Is it gonna be more towards 4.4? Are we looking at 5, like the 5 million?
So my understanding is that the 5, if we pass the bond, we cannot go higher than that, we can always go lower than that.
Yeah.
So that's why, so there's a little buffer there. I also understand that what we're doing is a bond anticipation, so we don't actually lock in until the whole thing's done and we know exactly how much it is. So there's that flexibility between the 4 and 5 that we have time to manage and utilize other funding. If we get a grant for, $100,000 and that comes off, that kind of thing. So we would have that whole year to figure it out before we actually lock in selling the bond. Is that inaccurate?
No, that's correct. I mean, it's like a line of credit. We're going up to 5 million. We don't have to go the full 5 million. This is also intended to cover soft costs too. There's architectural costs, legal costs, things like that. So we want to have somewhat of a cushion to cover those additional costs up and above the hard costs that we put on the.
So we won't know the final amount until 2026.
Correct.
And then what the cost.
And there'll be
will
more
in that
discussion
year.
about it at
Yeah.
that time.
Okay, cool, excellent, thank you. And then I just got curious to ask you if there's any idea on what the interest rate of the bond is. Like I was looking
That
around.
has been moving a lot.
Yeah, it's been in the
Yeah.
fours for recent projects, and I'm just curious.
When we were having our finance meeting discussing next year's budget a little bit, we had asked for some guidance, and we're expecting somewhere in that 4 to 5% range. That's, we're hopeful, but it will, it can change at any moment.
Yeah, we know it is. The other question I had is just more around, is there any changing in staffing due to this project, like within the garage? I know there's new mechanics bay. Last year there was talk about possibly that meaning some of the work that you guys have to ship out, you could do in-house, and I'm just wondering if there's any staffing changes.
So there's no staffing changes at this point, but it's certainly gonna make it a lot easier for us to do some of that work in-house. I mean, so having that crane is huge.
Yeah.
Lift these trucks up where we need to do what we need to do, but as of right now, it's staffing.
Excellent. And then the second question I have there around that is that do we anticipate any savings in repair costs from these?
So, certainly having the facility is gonna make it a lot easier. But one of the big issues we have now is ordering parts and those types of things. And we are very limited in the area of the space that we have right now to keep parts on hand.
Yeah.
We have taken our fleet over the years and basically generalized, and we basically order the same type of trucks, same type of plow equipment. So we're able to order more equipment, so that's going to save us money. So if one breaks, the other one's gonna break within a certain amount.
Yeah.
So that'll certainly save us some money.
Okay, excellent. And then the final bit, and you spoke to this already a little bit, John, is the 2% tax cap that we all kind of try to keep to. We're talking here with a 15-year bond of 5 million with interest rates close to 400 and something per year that'll be on the residents, which is pretty much that 2% tax cap. And I'm just curious, what actions the board is looking into to make sure that with these costs that other things are also going to go up like we saw last year with the double-digit increase in the rates.
Like I said, we've had our first budget meeting. Our comptroller put together kind of a new style of report to kind of analyze where the budget was last year, look for anywhere that we did any encumbrances, any transfers, things like that, so that we have kind of a starting base to say, we've got some amount of money that wasn't spent on the things that it was originally planned for. And so those are going to be the first places we start looking at how, could we reduce the budget in certain areas? Are there certain expenses that maybe we've been budgeting for at a certain rate that we're not realizing that full rate? So that's, the beginning of that work has already started.
Okay, excellent. And then just to confirm, because I always forget with budgets. So since the bond isn't going to be finalized until next year, would we still see that increase in next year's?
So we will have interest payments on the ban that we'll have, and then the full debt service amount will then be in the 2027.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So the bond resolution is actually not up for a vote
Yeah.
next time. So we're gonna leave the public hearing open because we're gonna discuss the bond itself at our next meeting because of the time frame of permission. So, so we're just gonna leave it open, and then if somebody else has comments, they can also send in anytime over the next 2 weeks. If you want to send in something on an email or a letter, and also we will have it available next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you again. Very much.
Thank you very much.
Very good presentation.
Thank you.
And this presentation will be available for anybody who is reading. Thank you.
Next up, Aqua, we have a proposed hydrant and 6-inch fire service at Urban Senior Living. Any questions on this?
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the hydrant number 15235 for Peregrine Senior Living Town of Manlius as presented by Onondaga County Water Authority.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Do you want to just provide more info of the paragraph?
Okay, so if you go to up Burdick Street, Manlius Center Drive, Manlius Medical Center Drive, goes up to the medical center, there's a bank, there's an apartment building, there's the new A&E thing happening, and then across the street from that is the new Peregrine thing happening. So this is a senior living, actually memory care facility that will be built behind that bank. So that's where this is, and it's just bringing the hydrant.
And then
Okay, and then the other one is to, a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the highway department permit application submitted by Onondaga County Water Authority for the installation of a 6-inch fire service and 1 hydrant at Peregrine Senior Living Town of Manlius. So they have to go onto our easement.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
I'm trying to think of just Sarah on most of that.
So then next up, Rob, do you want to talk to us a little bit about this, the highway permit for Aqua 2025 cleaning and lining in Southwood Water
Okay,
District?
so from what I understand, it's not a large district, it's kind of between Sweet and Troop K, up in the Armstrong area, on Tree Ridge. It's not a large district, but they're gonna go in and do some lining and cleaning of the current water lines that are there. I don't believe that they're adding anything different according to the map, so again, this is just a formality for us to allow them to work within our right of way, so.
Any questions?
So make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign a highway department permit application submitted by Onondaga County Water Authority for the 2025 cleaning and lining of Southwood Water District, Town of Manlius. I never knew that was the name of it.
Yeah, I know. I said that, I was like, wait, is that the right name? It's all this.
Change
Yeah.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. And another item for the highway department. So it looks like we've got, 3 pieces of equipment here that are at the end of their usable life?
No, we missed one. Truck twelve equipment.
Yeah, truck 12 equipment, John, I just wanted to mention that, as the board knows, we've been purchasing these cabin chassis like 2 years in advance. And then we've been trying to buy the equipment along that time that we knew that those trucks were gonna be getting delivered. So we're still in the backlog side of it. Now I'm getting the cabin chassis, can't get the equipment because we're whole. So with this particular truck, this will be the 3rd one that we had ordered back in the 2022-2023. The original cost for the equipment with that with installation from Tracy Road equipment was $164,979. So what we're looking to do, to kind of move the progress along, so we can put this truck and put it into service. We're gonna actually do the fabrication work ourselves, which is very time consuming. We're very lucky to have a good fabricator that works for us, and you know, he's our lead mechanic also. So our mechanics are gonna be basically working on this while they're working on everything else. But we're gonna put a good push together. It's gonna drop that price down to $125 for the equipment. So we're saving quite a bit of money just by putting it together. Plus, it's gonna make it a little bit quicker to put this truck into service. So it's really nothing that I need a motion for. I just want to make sure the board was aware of it, that the price is gonna be different, so it's gonna reflect in the budget, that there will be a savings on that, so. And then for.
Rob, Sorry, could you just clarify that for me? So it was 165 roughly for the truck and the
So
equipment?
no, that was just for the equipment, for the
Okay.
snowplow equipment, so that would have been the wing plow,
And
hydraulic
installation.
package, sander, all the above, that would have come with that package that we approved. So again, you know, we're gonna be putting that all on the truck, so we're literally gonna be putting the whole plow package, welding everything up, fabricating ourselves, running our own hydraulic lines, doing all that stuff ourselves, so. We used to do it years ago, we would build maybe one truck every 2 or 3 years. But with the amount that we've got on the road today and getting equipment, it's just virtually impossible. I've been working on this for almost a year and a half just to get this equipment delivered separately, so we can do this, so. And again, you go up to some of these dealers that, I was just up in Watertown, one of the vendors up there, they got almost 300 trucks sitting up there, cabin chassis sitting in line, waiting to get equipment put on them, so. There'll be another year and a half, I'll just get equipment put on those trucks, so if we're gonna wait, you know, it's just, time is money, right, as far as I'm concerned, so I just assume do it ourselves, put the truck on, and we'll go from there, so.
Thank you.
And I think the other one, John, that we've got is that, I just need to get a board approval here, we would like to put an auction together for some surplus equipment that we wanna get rid of during an auction. We've got a 1995 International Crew Cab truck, and then we've got the 2014 Ford F-350 pickup and 2025 Ford F-350 pickup, so it'll be those 3 pieces of equipment. Again, we'll go through our normal process with the auction. I'll bring it back to the board, has the right to approve or disapprove, you know, the purchase costs on those, so we have to go to the board, but need a motion to allow me to put those off.
Almost 100,000 miles on a 2025, Rob, you get it around.
What's that?
Almost 100,000 miles on a 2025, you get it around.
Is it a?
No, it's not a 20, that's in here.
It wasn't bad.
So, that's a typo, that's got.
But he does drive the same 100 miles.
Although my truck, I gotta tell you, I've already put almost 20,000 miles on that, and it's a little over a year and a half, 2 years old, so, yeah, we do put some miles on, so. That's why they're diesels, all right, so, I'll get a correction on that.
No, that's my error.
Oh, is it? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'll take the blame on that one.
Okay.
Is it, so it's 2015 then?
2015.
2015, yeah.
Sorry.
But you repeated that with the other list too, so. All right, so declaring these to be surplus, I'd like to make a motion to declare 1995 International Crew Cab with 53,617 miles as surplus and authorize it to be sent to auction.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And motion to declare a 2014 Ford F with, this was 350 pickup with 123,129 miles as surplus and authorize it to be sent to auction.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries.
And motion to declare a 2015 Ford F-350 pickup with 99,379 miles as surplus and authorized to be sent to auction.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, so next up, we have the decommissioning agreement for the solar project at 7869 Peck Road. So just to kind of explain how this works, this is the agreement that we have in place with solar companies, so that if they do walk away from this at some point, and now we have a solar site that needs to be decommissioned, this sets it up so that there is money available to the town to go through that decommissioning process. Ideally, they don't walk away from it and they can decommission it themselves, and the agreement is just there for insurance. But this is something we put in place so that we don't have massive, solar farms that are kind of just left out there and not decommissioned.
If it's, the initial amount of the bond is based on the estimated cost for removal. I think they did 150% of the estimated cost. So the initial amount is $677,324.93. And it's going to be subject to adjustment each year for inflation. So it will change depending on the inflation rates.
Any questions?
So, Joe, where does that money come from? It's deposited by the.
No, it's not. It's a bond. It's a performance bond. So that if performance isn't completed, then we have to contact the surety company, and they will essentially issue. It's like an insurance policy almost, to ensure performance.
So what's the cost to have the bond?
We don't pay for it.
We don't pay,
The
so I just
developer
wanna make
pays
clear.
for it. Yep.
And so in 25 years, if they've gotten out of business or whatever, we have the asset to be able to give it. Okay, motion to approve a decommissioning agreement with NYSOLAR. So it's NY Solar, I guess, 07 LLC, really creative name. For the property located at 7869 Peck Road, Kirkville, New York, tax map 042.01-32.1.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have the Hope for Heather agreement, for the Teal Ribbon Run up in Manoa. Pretty much the same as every time we go about this, it's just got updated rates in there for the new year. Any questions on this?
Just the rates need to be updated in the actual agreement.
Yes, yeah, we just got those from TNPD and they're sending them over to Manila to update. We just wanted to get it on the agenda approved. And asked me just to let everybody know that the race is gonna be on May 17th at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Same day as the police, yes.
Open house at the police department.
Oh,
And
so,
watershed tree planting. Absolutely, yeah, make a motion to authorize the supervisor to sign the Hope for Heather agreement with the updated rates of $58.54 and $74.79 per hour.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next up, do you wanna tell us a little bit about the public assembly permit?
Yeah, so Stephen Fort, who's back there, who is the owner of the School of Rock, I've been working with him. They recently opened their facility where they have music lessons and a variety of other things, and they're looking to do a grand opening outdoor concert. This would be a free event, and the date has, I just spoke with him, has changed to June 8th. From the May 10th, so June 8th, from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Performances by School of Rock, student staff, instructors, and other local bands. If you're not familiar with the School of Rock location, it's on the backside of Town Drive. They're looking to have food trucks in the rear parking lot, and they'll be providing food and beverages there, excluding alcohol, so no alcohol at the event. Expected to accommodate 100 to 300 people. I've had discussions with the chief of police, Jason Castalia, and with Stephen, who was amenable for making sure that we'd be providing a safe event. So we will be moving forward with that review to ensure that everything is done properly there.
Great. Any questions? I know we've had some conversations about public assembly permits in general, kind of like how we've done it with the firework permits, where we kind of put a better policy together and then allow the professionals to just kind of sign off on those things. So that's gonna be a little bit of a conversation, so something will come back to us kind of about public assembly permits, and then also to setting some thresholds for when the police need to be involved and things like that, so. So you said it was June 8th?
June 8th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m.
So if somebody would like to make that amendment.
Sure. Sounds really cool. I'd like to make a motion to approve the public assembly permit for School of Rock to hold an event at 311B Town Drive, Fayetteville, New York on June 8th from 4 to 7 p.m. 3 to 7 p.m. contingent on the applicant submitting a public safety plan and professional review.
Okay, for a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Do you have like a Facebook event or anything?
Yeah, we have a Facebook, it's School of Rock, Fayetteville, NY. And really happy to be in the town, so if anybody wants to come check it out, we'd be happy to give you a tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
How can we get in touch with you?
You can call us.
Sounds good.
Based on a conversation we had with the comptroller, we are gonna table item number 12, the cable franchise fee audit agreement, just until we get a little bit more clarity on it. And then, rolling forward, so the only, thing I wanted to do before we get to kind of the end of the meeting there is, Counselor Neshi and the comptroller, and I, sat down, I know we've had some conversations about budgeting software, but specifically, we met with ClearGov, which is just another vendor in the space. All they do is budgeting software for municipalities. And we did have a pretty great presentation. They have a forward-facing piece. So they have budgeting software that you can use internally that I think we found kind of nice, but at this point, given that we didn't really budget for something like this, to just look at that forward-facing piece, and what this does is it'll allow us to, at every step of the budget process, export the current version of the budget, and then it'll go into like a pre-formatted website. And department heads can go in and add narrative, they can add any other additional, tables or data. It's very customizable, but the idea is that rather than having a presentation and a long PDF that's pretty hard to consume.
Several different PDFs
Yeah.
were made in different formats, right?
Yeah, and so this would allow it so that the budget is much more easy for the public to digest, and allow them to ask more pointed questions about what is in that budget.
And to do it earlier, like have multiple.
Yes, so the idea would be as soon as the preliminary is done, it would get uploaded, we would adopt the preliminary, and then that would be available on the website that day.
They could see it and comment, and then department heads could also comment, make changes. And then as there's changes, eventually is you add pieces to this. It'll grow into the actual budget document that we're working on, and we would all just work off of this instead of handouts, or just handouts. Some are emailed to us, and the final product is, I think, very tangible data and very transparent to the public to be able to look at it.
And that being said, we did get a quote, there's a one-time implementation fee of about $8,000, and then the yearly fee would be about $10,000. So I didn't put it on the agenda because I just didn't wanna hit everybody with too much, but it's something that we'll send some materials out. I believe we have a recording of the presentation, we'll send that out to everybody, and the plan will be to put it on the next agenda for consideration of developers. But I did wanna just share that, we've had a lot of feedback on how digestible the budget is. And yes, we do have to spend money, but this would be a way that really doesn't require any employee's time to take the budget and immediately make it a lot easier to kind of go through and work with, so.
And it's completely compatible with the current tools that the comptroller is using, so it can be.
So we can't upload back and forth, because that was an issue with somebody.
Yeah, and this is after we've looked at a couple other vendors for software like this, and it just ended up, some of them were pretty prohibitively expensive. So this is a pretty good happy medium, really for $10,000 a year to produce a budget product that is good for the residents as opposed to what we are able to produce now. If that's something that we're willing to do, I think it's a good thing.
So just, I didn't attend the presentation, but so when you say the public can comment, because I love this model, participatory budgeting, kind of halfway there. But when you say the public can comment on the preliminary budget, it's supposed to comment how? You mean like they
So
email us?
it's not interactive,
That's what I get at.
but the idea is that this is just a version of the budget that is interactable. So like you can say, I wanna look specifically at this fund, I wanna see what are the line items here, how's the breakdown? And it makes it a lot easier to get into the budget and actually understand what's going on, as opposed to the report that we put out with the presentation.
Yeah, a user-friendly dashboard model.
Yeah, the form of it is gonna be very familiar to folks who've been using the internet over the last 10 years.
It has that feeling, so like it has some feeling that it doesn't look like an antiquated type of budgeting or Excel spreadsheet with all this data that you can't digest, very digestible.
Yeah, that's great. So the member of the public who's interested could go in and say, I wanna see the personnel and fringe costs for rec department, whatever, and see it without tampering.
If they can click button,
thick documents.
Yeah, they can click button to give them pie charts.
For example, whatever else.
Yeah.
And then they can submit their questions the regular way.
Yeah.
Which is to info.
Yes, and what would be nice too about that is like, you can like take a screenshot and say, I have a question about this part of the budget, so it'll be a much easier process.
And we're all looking at the same thing, we're not now.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I love it, thank you.
Alright, so like I said, we'll send some information about that and we'll consider the next meeting. Okay, does anybody have any news or announcements or any new business that didn't make it to the agenda?
I do have some ideas too. Go ahead, Ingrid.
Okay, so we have our age-friendly committee meeting here on Monday at 8 AM, bright and early. So this group is getting together to work on our age-friendly initiative through AARP. So the next step that we're working on is creating a community-wide survey. So we're gonna be seeking information from everyone age 45 plus. So if you're in that group, we're gonna age 45 plus.
For the survey.
Are you in shock?
Yeah, I'm not a senior citizen.
It's age friendly.
Yeah.
Age friendly. So you have the opportunity to input into what would you like the community to be
Did I
like?
look shocked?
When
Like,
you're thinking
I'm
about-
close to 45, but I was.
So when you get there, we are prepared for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, exactly. So we'll continue to provide updates on what that group is doing and you'll hear more.
Fantastic, thank you.
So I have two things. My first thing, I'm participating on Friday at noon with Focus Greater Syracuse. I was invited to join to discuss the work that we're doing in Manlius on diversifying housing. So I'm gonna talk about our PUD law, the apartment complex, senior housing, pro-housing community, a couple other things.
ADUs.
Yep, ADUs is on there, that we're interested in pocket communities. Is there anything that you're gonna be talking about on Monday or in that about housing, I would imagine, right?
We may touch on it. Our focus is the survey. We've talked to 2 developers from the Ithaca area so far who have built cottage communities. So they're homes with a smaller footprint. One was a rental community, the other was homes for purchase with lower maintenance, less of a footprint, energy efficient. So we do want to talk to additional developers, so that's also in the works.
Okay, maybe I'll mention that so that people should know that's coming. It's like 160 people registered so far for this thing on Friday. So if any of you wanna join, I can send it to you. I would be happy if you did. And I'll probably be reaching out to some, if not all of you, in the next day or two to make sure that I didn't miss anything. This is not my area of expertise. We were talking about solar, I can do it in my sleep, but I'm a little nervous to make sure I hit all the topics accurately,
So between Alyssa, William and I.
yeah, I've already been harassing Alyssa, so. But I'm gonna try to get my slides done so I can circulate them, and then you can let me know if I'm missing anything. My second thing, Earth Day was yesterday. I did not get around to preparing a formal resolution, so I don't really know that ever does anything anyway. So I just wanna wish everyone a happy Earth Day, and share that there are some events coming up this weekend for, Earth Day cleanups. So if anyone wants to help, I know that there's a couple going on. If you wanna just search around the community, there were several. And then Earth Fest is coming up, at Green Lakes, and that's happening. Our recreation department is taking the lead on that this year, so gosh, we've appreciated their help so much that it just got too big for a group of volunteers to manage. So that's gonna be at Green Lake State Park this year, on May 18th from noon to 3. So,
Busy weekend.
yeah. There's a meet and greet with the police department this year at Earth Fest. So you guys are like headlining the event. Yes, yeah, but it's like right in the description, meet and greet with the Manlius PD, so that's it for me. I'm happy with it.
And the town will have their EVs there as well.
Yeah.
We have lots of EVs. I have something to correct.
Fish stock was last week and they collected $458.85 as well as 416 pounds of food, which equates to 1,724 meals provided to the food bank of Central New York.
And it was snowing.
Yes, it was snowing. It was snowing, but people still showed up and
They
attended.
were tired.
Yes. And that was also our Arbor Day. Thank you very much for attending with me on your shoulders and reading the proclamation. You did a great job. And so did you.
What really does it?
Survey, the watershed survey?
So go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So you may have noticed throughout the town in certain areas, there were some small signs with a QR code on it about the from the Manlius watershed stewards. So we were able to partner with a Syracuse University Maxwell School student doing a community link, data analysis project, and we assigned him to collect survey data from residents on their appreciation of essentially the unique waterways within the town and how do you enjoy them, when and how often and for what. And shockingly, we got a huge amount of response to it. About 187 people took the surveys during the time they were open, which included a second harsh winter that we weren't anticipating. But interestingly, we found a number of people that came to Manlius specifically, town Manlius specifically, to access the trails and watershed. Daily or weekly, and a slim majority of them are over the age of 45. 70% of the residents, or 70% of the respondents were residents of the town of Manlius, which makes sense. 60% were women. And then the large majority, this is important for us to analyze how we kind of dispatch information, what we're doing, that the majority of the respondents were from the most easily accessible parts where we put signs on the feeder canal right down here. There's ample parking, there's lots of ways to get here, it's easy to get in and out. But that was interesting. So we'll put together a little bit of a graphic for another future meeting. And then the second thing, if I don't mind, the annual deer management plan report is back as of yesterday, so I don't have anything to present today, but in the next meeting I'll have a little bit of data and analysis to provide. No, someone else, other than me.
I have something else, though.
No, just because it happens to be so close to my home, it just
Okay.
feels awkward.
All right, so we are gonna do a tree planting to assist with erosion control on Limestone Creek near Route 173 on the edge of the village of Manlius, but of course not actually in the village of Manlius. And that will be on the 17th, the same day as everything else that's going on. And it's 50 trees from DEC, right?
100.
100 trees from DEC.
Wow.
They're very baby trees.
This is through the Actions of Trout Unlimited chapter.
And
Put them in the ground. Volunteers.
Volunteers from
Okay.
watershed stewards. But we welcome any youth who would like to participate or any people who would just like to get out and think it might be finally spring and they could get out and do something outdoors. We'd be happy with that.
What time is that, Sarah?
It's at 10.
What
Very
year?
small.
So once you finish running in the race, you can run,
Yeah, we can plant some trees and then go to Earth Fest.
We should make sure that all this is on the calendar.
No, this is, you plant some trees, then you go to the police department. Earth Fest is the next day.
Yeah. Take a quick run through Manoa too for the deal run.
So this is the
Oh, yeah.
16th.
I did forget, I wanted to mention, all of our fire departments are having open houses this weekend. Fayetteville's is on the 26th from 10 to 2. Manlius and Manoa's are on the 27th from 10 to 2.
Thank you.
Please attend, they're a lot of fun.
Gosh, and we are gonna be busy, right? We have so much to do with that.
Oh. Get to work on that. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so you may recall, you may not recall, that we worked with the Syracuse Metropolitan Transportation Council with the villages of Manoa, Manlius, and Fayetteville to do a Villages of Manoa, Fayetteville, and Manlius bicycle and pedestrian connection study. So they are the villages, they connect through the town. And that's what the study was about. So here it is, lovely. It will be available on our website. And it just has a lot of sort of practical ideas about places where investment, so Rob, this is coming your way, investment in street widening, painting lanes green, stuff like that could be worth it. And areas where they've got a little chart with how many dollar signs each project is. And some of them that you might think this would be a wonderful idea, then you get to the dollar sign page and say maybe not. So, but there are some things that were within the little dollar signs that I think we will probably be looking at doing in the not too distant future. So,
Very cool.
and we appreciate the collaboration of that project and Councilor Nicholson, who's our representative. Who is now going to be the chair.
Is that an announcement? Is that breaking news?
Well, you wouldn't want to do it yourself, so I thought we'd throw that in.
Congratulations.
Wait, what are you doing?
Police committee elected a new chair today. Someone you know.
Go down. Congratulations.
The only submitted.
See, we missed the meeting?
How about people congratulate me on things and I'm like, don't do that.
Alright, so next up, we've got some budget transfers here, some budget adjustments, so just looking for some motions.
Sure, make a motion to approve the budget transfer in the amount of $173.98 from SW 5.8340.400 Manlius Conservation Water District contractual to W 5.8340.400 Shepherd Water District contractual.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the budget adjustment in the amount of $1,550 for account A Fund 4.3389.304 Traffic Safety Grant, CPSS, and A Fund 5.3120.463 Police CPSS.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries. Approval of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 9th, 2025 as amended.
All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Make a motion to approve the abstract number 8 in the amount of $482,882.04.
Second. Okay, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Also moved.